In this tutorial, we will implement Kmeans clustering on Iris dataset using Python, Jupyter Notebook, and Anconda. We will implement the whole data mining pipeline for Kmeans, starting from data preprocessing, implementation of Kmeans model, evaluation of Kmeans using evaluation measures like accuracy, confusion matrix, precision and recall, and F1 score. We will also see how to choose best value of k for K-means implementation using silhouette score. Before starting this tutorial, we should already install Anaconda with Jupyter Notebook on our computer, and we should also have sufficient knowledge of Python. If you haven't set up Anaconda on your computer, I have provided the link to the tutorial on how to set up Anaconda with Jupyter Notebook on Ubuntu in the video description below. The purpose of this tutorial is to convert the theoretical concepts into practical code, so we won't dive deep into theory in this tutorial. Now let's get started with the hands-on session. First, open your terminal and launch Jupyter Notebook. Then create a new Python 3 notebook and rename it. I will rename it to kmeans_code. You can name it whatever you like. Then after that, I will quickly import all the necessary libraries and briefly explain what each library does. We will start by importing numpy, pandas, matplotlib, scikit-learn libraries. These are very popular and important libraries for machine learning and artificial intelligence. Next, in the first two lines, we imported numpy and pandas. NumPy is a Python library used for working with arrays, and Pandas is an open source data analysis and data manipulation library built in Python. On line number 3 and 4, we imported seaborn and matplotlib for making plots and figures and to visualize the data. From line 5 to 10, we are importing everything from scikit-learn like Iris dataset, label encoder for transforming the data, K-means model, and evaluation measures like accuracy, silhouette score, confusion matrix, and classification report for precision recall and F1 score. First, we will start with data preprocessing. We will load the Iris dataset from seaborn library. The Iris dataset comes with many libraries as a built-in dataset. Next, we will have a quick look into the features of the Iris dataset with the head function. The Iris dataset has 3 different classes of flowers such as setosa, versicolor, and virginica, as we will see in the species column next. Each class has 4 features such as sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width. Every flower class has 50 examples in the data, which means that the data has total 150 rows. We can notice that all of the columns are numeric except the last species column, which is a categorical data type. Afterwards, we will do label encoding. We will do this to convert the class label species from categorical to numeric form, because the features sepal length, sepal width, petal width are numeric. This step was done to make the data consistent and to fit the data into the model. We will print the first 5 rows of each class and see that the class setosa is converted into 0, versicolor is converted into 1, and virginica is converted into 2. So the class labels are successfully converted into numeric form. At this step, our data is ready for implementation, and next we will feed this data to K-means and implement our next step of applying the K-means model. Our first step in implementing the model is to convert the Iris dataset into a NumPy array, because our model will accept the data in the shape of a NumPy array. We fit all of our features into Iris matrix variable. At this step, we can notice that we did not fit the class labels into our Iris matrix variable. That's because K-means is unsupervised learning and it does not need the data labels for predictions. After this, we will define our model. We will choose the first parameter k, which is the number of clusters, to be equal to 3 in our K-means model. Now, why did we choose the number of clusters to be 3? Because ground truth data is available for the iris dataset, and we know that there are 3 different classes of flowers in this dataset. But we did not use these labels while implementing the model because K-means is unsupervised. And in unsupervised learning, the ground truth data or labels are not available in most cases. So how can we choose the value of K before implementing the model? We will answer this question in our last section while implementing the silhouette score. The second parameter in our model is random state. It determines the random number generation for centroid initialization. Next, we will fit the iris matrix variable into our model, and that's it. Our model has predicted the clusters. We will print the labels of our model, and we can see there are 3 types of the predicted labels: 0, 1, and 2. 0, 1, 2 indicate the class labels for Setosa, Versicolor, and Virginica. Next, we will fit these label predictions into cluster label variable to evaluate the predictions made by Kmeans model and make plots to visualize the clusters. We will assign our iris dataset to a new variable Kmeans. After that, add a new column predicted in the Kmeans variable which contains the values of the labels predicted by Kmeans clustering model. By doing this, we can compare the labels of the predicted model and labels that were already available in the iris dataset as a ground truth. As we can see, a new column predicted has been added at the end of iris data which contains the predictions made by K-means model. We will print the K-means variable to see the newly added predicted column using the head method. As we can see that a new column predicted has been added with the species column. By doing that, we can compare the ground truth labels which were already available in iris dataset and the labels predicted by K-means. Next, we will plot the clusters predicted by K-means and compare it with the plot of actual iris data. As we can see that the facet grid function, we are passing the K-means variable which will plot the clusters based on the predicted column which is based on our K-means model. Since our plot is 2-dimensional, we used only 2 features in the plot which are sepal length and sepal width. We can see that there are 3 clusters predicted by K-means, and we know that there are 3 species in our iris dataset. The blue ones are Setosa, the orange ones are Versicolor, and the green ones are Virginica. The orange and green clusters are kind of mixed. They are not very much distinct and not separated as much as the blue cluster. Next, we will plot another figure based on simple iris data without K-means model. As we can see in the facet grade function of the second plot, the first parameter is iris data and the second hue parameter is species. If we compare both of these plots, they both look identical, except if we look closely, there are a few green spots mislabeled as orange spots in the first plot by K-means, which means that K-means did a very decent job as compared to the ground truth values. We will further evaluate our model in our third section on evaluation. First, we will check the accuracy of K-means by passing original labels available in the iris datasets and labels predicted by K-means to the scikit-learn accuracy score function. And we can see that the accuracy of K-means is almost 90%, which is very good. Next, we will plot the confusion matrix. I personally find confusion matrix to be very interesting as sometimes it clearly depicts the picture. So if we plot the confusion matrix, and we will see that for the class 0, which is Setosa, in the first row, there is no case of Setosa being marked as Versicolor or Virginica. As we can see, the blue cluster is totally separate from the green and orange clusters. If we see the second row, we see the results of class Versicolor. There are 48 instances of Versicolor which are marked correctly while it is marked wrongly in only 2 cases. While in the third row, we can see that Virginica is correctly marked 36 times and wrongly marked 14 times. That's why the plot based on k-means had some of the green dots marked as orange dots when we compared it to the plot which was based on original iris dataset labels. Next, we will see the precision, recall, and F1 score. They also tell the same results as our accuracy, confusion matrix, and plots did. We will have 100% precision, recall, and F1 score for class 0, which is Setosa. For the class 1, which is versicolor, the precision is 77% and the recall score is 96%, while the F1 score is 86%. While for the class 2, which is Virginica, the precision is 95% and recall is 72%, while the F1 score is 82%. Next, we will plot two box plots to for further comparison between k-means model and the labels available in the iris dataset. First, we will plot the box plot which is based on original iris dataset labels, and we will plot the box plot for sepal length feature. We can see that in the code for the box plot, we have passed iris data labels to the plot in the data parameter. In the purple box plot, we can see there is a small dot below it. Next, we will plot the box plot on the labels predicted by k-means. The second box plot is based on k-means predicted labels. If we look at the purple box plot in the second figure, we can see that the small dot is not present there, which means that some of the instances of Virginica were misclassified by k-means, as we saw in the case of confusion matrix. We can plot more box plot for all the features too, but to keep the video short, I will stop box plots here. The last section is on silhouette score. I will copy paste the code in this section because it contains a lot of code to type it manually. I have taken this code from scikit-learn official website and changed a few lines of code in the start to adapt to our code. The rest of the code is same as it's on scikit-learn website. Now I will run this code and we will see what is silhouette score. One of the main problems in k-means is that we have to choose the number of clusters, which is the number of k beforehand or before implementing the model. Silhouette helps us to choose the best value of k. In the above code, we are giving a range of k values from 2 to 6, and then we will plot these values and decide with the help of silhouette score to see which value of k is best for iris dataset. The silhouette function takes the cluster labels predicted by k-means and data features as input parameters and estimates the best value for k. The numeric values for silhouette analysis lie between 1 and -1. A score closer to +1 indicates the best value to choose for k, while a value closer to -1 shows the bad value for k. What we see here is different silhouette charts for different number of clusters for iris data. We have the clusters and cluster labels along the y-axis and silhouette score against the x-axis. The red dotted line indicates the average silhouette score, while the circles inside the clusters are centroids, which also contain the cluster labels. First of all, we will look into our first case where the value of k is equal to 2. There are two clusters in the first chart. The left plot shows the silhouette analysis, and on the right side it shows the number of clusters for the current value of k. First, we will look into our first case where the value of k is equal to 2. There are two clusters in the first chart. The left plot shows the silhouette analysis, while the plot on the right side shows how the clusters will look for the current value of k. This is not a good case, as we can see that there is a big fat green clusters in the silhouette plot for the value of k. It can be divided into further two clusters, and the curve shows that there are too many instances that lie in the boundary. Also, some of the points are mislabeled as cluster 0, but they can actually belong to cluster 1. If we look at our second example, we have k is equal to 3, and we get 3 clusters of almost equal size, and their average score is closer to +1 for the silver score. When we go to the next chart where the value of k is 4, we can see that we have 4 clusters. We can also see that in this case we have 3 very small clusters and 1 cluster is very big. We can also observe that for cluster 1 we have some negative values, which means that they belong to some other clusters and they have been mislabeled. For k equal 5 we have 4 very small clusters and 1 very large cluster. In cluster 2 and 3 there are some negative instances as well. And for k equals 6, we have 6 small clusters which are not distinct and mixed with each other. So the best value of k for iris dataset is 3, which is also indicated by silver score. So that's it for this video. The link to the Jupyter notebook and the whole source code is available in the video description. I hope you liked the video. Bye.